morning, WP 88.7 FM. Ruthie, this is Mark. How are you? Good, good. How things going? I know that's right. Well, hold on. We'll be going on the air in about 5 minutes. All right.
WPSC-FM 88.7, Wayne, New Jersey.
Part of the William Patterson Broadcast Network. Brave New Radio.
Brave New Radio. Give us your tired, your poor, your hungry, your rockers, your punks, your freaks, your geeks, your Greeks, your party animals, your gangsters, your commuters, your residents, your students, your alums, your lawyers, your truckers, your calls, your tweets. And we'll give you rock, classic, indie, punk, alternative, easy, hard, raps, rhymes, mixes and drops. We'll give you kick-ass music because we're WPSC 88.7 FM. Brave New Radio. Sound good?
Well, good morning, good morning. Good morning to you. And yes, if you can hear the sound of my voice, you're listening to another edition of The Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley. We come to you live each Saturday morning in the 6 o'clock hour Eastern Time, where we bring you what's going on in the literary world. So we ask that you sit back and relax. To those in the Periscope audience, good morning. I see there are at least 3 of you that are looking on. Might be more. And to those in the listening audience, good morning to you. If you've been listening to us any amount of time, you know that we have a ritual and a routine. I give you the weather. I read from 2 books. I introduce our guest. We have what we call a public service announcement. That's whenever I share some information with you, and then we come back and we resume our interview. So we're going to do just that. Right now, it is 34.7 degrees in the Wayne, New Jersey area. We're supposed to be moving up today to a high of 58. All right, it's going to be summer-like again. Sun and clouds mixed. As I said, high of 58, mainly clear skies, low of 37. Then on tomorrow, Sunday, intervals of clouds and sunshine, high around 50. Cloudy with occasional rain showers on Sunday night, low of 30. Then on Monday, mostly cloudy skies. Early will become partly cloudy later in the day, high of 43, low of 24. And then Monday night, again cloudy, low of 24. Tuesday, mostly cloudy, high of 41, cloudy in the evening, 31 as a low. And then on Wednesday, we have rain showers early with overcast skies later in the day, 37 as a low. All right, well, that is our weather, brought to you right here from the WP 88.7 FM Weather Center. I read from 2 books to kick the show off, and one of them is The Power of Being Thankful, 365 Devotions for Discovering the Strength of Gratitude. Hearing, receiving, and obeying God's Word. Behold, I long for your precepts. In your righteousness give me renewed life. I will keep your law continually forever and ever. Hearing, receiving, loving, and obeying it. And I will walk at liberty and at ease, for I have sought and inquired for and desperately required your precepts. Our joy is full when we gratefully receive God's promises for our lives and obey his commands. When we believe the word and obey whatever Jesus puts in our hearts to do, we overcome the things that try to upset or frustrate us. Believing God's word delivers us from struggling so that we may rest in the promises of God. The word says, "For we who have believed do enter that rest." If your thoughts have become negative and you are full of doubt, it may be because you have stopped hearing, receiving, and obeying God's word. As soon as you start believing God's word, your joy will return and you will be at ease again. Thankfully, that place of rest in God is where He wants you to be every day of your life. Prayer of thanks. Father, I am so grateful for your word. I know that the promises and instructions you give me are for my benefit. As I hear, receive, and obey the word of God today, help me to experience the joy-filled, overcoming life Jesus came to give me. That's from the book, The Power of Being Thankful. From the book by Iyanla Vanzant. Until today, for February the 20th, Iyanla says, "I will know love when I realize I cannot do unloving things for the sake of love." When you love someone, you must be willing to share certain things you believe will save them trouble or grief. That is the nature of this message. It is an attempt to save you grief. So here goes. Don't sleep with other people's partners. It's not nice. In fact, it is dangerous. It really pisses people off. And if you are not careful, you may find out just how pissed off they are. And I know you think it's love. I know you feel this one is the one. You are mistaken. The one who is with someone else cannot be the one that is meant for you. Forget what they may say. Forget all the things you tell yourself. It is never a loving thing to do to sleep with someone else's partner under any circumstances. So please, don't do it. This is not an easy thing to share with you. Most people who say they love you simply won't talk about it at all. Some of those same people may even help you do what they know you should not do. But I really love you. I want the best for you. And I know that sleeping with someone else's partner is not the best you can do. It is not very spiritual. No matter what the other says to you, if you two are supposed to be together, you will be together after the divorce. Oh, you didn't know they had someone else? Well, the minute you find out that they do, your duty to yourself is to pack your bag of reasons why. You must pick up all the rationales that support you in doing one of the most unloving things you could ever do and get the heck out. You must take full responsibility for what happens if you choose to stay. One day, when you least expect it, the very thing you have done will be done to you. You can never expect to realize the love you deserve when you insist on doing such an unloving thing as sleeping with someone else's partner. Until today, you may have convinced yourself that love was the reason you were in a relationship with someone else's partner. Just for today, lay down all of the reasons and excuses. Vow to start packing and get out. Today I'm devoted to ending the dead end in my life. All right, that's from the book Until Today by Iyanla Vanzant. I'm going to quickly introduce our guest, and then we will share some information. But all of you out in the listening audience, you know the drill. Get on all your social media sites and let someone know that the Reading Circle is indeed on the air with me. My guest this morning is Ruthie Green, and she is a single senior citizen who recently relocated from an urban setting to the country. She has 3 children and 3 grandchildren. She has written a book titled A Chain of Events, a black woman's perspective on our rise to prominence from slavery to the White House. Stay there, don't you move, as you're going to want to hear about this book written by Ruthie Green. So again, get on all your social media sites. Let someone know that the Reading Circle is on the air on gobrave.org, and if you're in the northern New Jersey area, WP 88.7 FM.
started going cold turkey. Well, at least when I'm in the car.
I know I shouldn't do it, but it's so hard to stop. That's why I hide it from myself, so I won't be tempted.
I used to do it all the time. I stopped by locking it in my glove compartment.
My friend used to do it way too much. Now I turn it off when we're in the car.
My solution is simple. I just don't do it.
There are lots of ways to stop yourself and others from texting and driving. How will you stop? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Think carrying 10 or 20 pounds of extra weight isn't much? We went to a park, handed 10 and 20-pound sandbags to people aged 45 to 60, and asked if we could follow them around.
10 pounds makes a big difference. Oh, I definitely felt it in my knees.
A few extra pounds each year can cause joint pain and lead to serious chronic diseases like diabetes and heart disease. Wouldn't you like to drop that weight and stop picking up more? Visit hhs.gov/1 pound at a time to find out how. Obesity happens 1 pound at a time. So does preventing it. Brought to you by HHS and NIH.
As promised, it is now time to go ahead along with our interview, and my guest is already on the line. She is calling from the Peachtree State down in Georgia. Ruthie, good morning. How are you? No need to complain. We are alive and well. We are still on the planet. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and read from the back of the book. The book is A Chain of Events, A Black Woman's Perspective on Our Rise to Prominence from Slavery to the White House. The inauguration of Barack Obama as President of the United States of America in 2009 marked a crucial turning point in African American history. It was the culmination of a chain of events that started nearly 400 years ago when the evil of slavery cast its shadow on America. Tracing the history of Black Americans, A Chain of Events documents how God gave them the freedom and will to rise from the ashes of slavery to become true Americans. Author Ruthie Green examines the harrowing life of slaves in early America, their emancipation by Abraham Lincoln, and their long struggle through the years for recognition as citizens of the United States. Green also discusses some of the African American community's most prominent and influential early members, including W.E.B. Du Bois, George Washington Carver, and Marcus Garvey Jr. She profiles leading African American entertainers and delves into the tumultuous years of the Civil Rights Movement and the impact of Martin Luther King Jr. In addition, she talks about such important African Americans as Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Jesse Owens, the Tuskegee Airmen, Ethel Waters, and many more. A Chain of Events offers an eye-opening glimpse into the remarkable history of African Americans. Again, Ruthie, welcome to the Reading Circle with Marc Medley. So, all right, Ruthie, let's go. Let's take this all the way back. Now, where did the writing notion begin? Did you write or do things in school whenever you were a child, or did the writing come later?
I didn't do any writing. What I did as a young person was I chronicled my days. I sort of like did diaries. So I chronicled my days, and the main reason for the diary was to keep track of what I spent during the day.
So, wait a minute. When you say spent during the day, you talking about money or time or both? Oh, so you...
with church services. I started later on with church services. So I've always been doing a lot of writing.
So you've always done a lot of writing, and then some point you decided that you were going to actually write a book. At what point was that? When did you make that decision that, you know what, I am going to actually become an author, I'm going to do this thing called writing a book?
Well, as I sat in my living room on January 20th, 2009, watching the inaugurational ceremony for our newly elected Black President of America, Barack Obama, I began to feel the same exhilaration that many other black viewers and spectators felt. Finally, a black man was astute enough to join the ranks along with 43 others from George Washington to George W. Bush and enter those prestigious halls and chambers of the White House as our country's commander-in-chief. All the glory for that belongs to God.
Yes, it does. So at that point, you said to yourself, Ruthie, I'm going to write a book about this.
Research, because history was not my major subject. So as I researched, I realized that there was something called the Spingarn Medal that was given out since 1916, and it was given to the African American who did the most to boost their people, did the most to boost their people, to keep them from feeling like they were nobody. And I just went down the line and added more people in, and it blossomed into a book.
So when you were originally researching, you weren't originally intending to write the book, or did you do the research because of the book? Because you said you just kept adding people. What caused you kind of to add the people?
Well, it started to be a good story. I like reading, and I've read many stories, and this started to be a good story. So I figured, well, I can turn this into a book. I didn't write it. I didn't start it to write a book. I just was writing down my thoughts. It says the perspective of a black woman. I was just writing down my thoughts. I have been doing that for the longest, writing down my thoughts. Then I decided to let somebody else read it for a change.
So I see here, it's titled A Chain of Events. How did you come across your title? What made you come up with that title, A Chain of Events?
Well, I realized that every time a Spingarn Medal was given out, it gave the black man a boost up in society. It's like we were stepping up the rungs of a ladder.
Correct.
Every time someone was awarded that medal, our steps went higher and higher and higher. And we were beginning to be a people and not just just a conglomeration.
So as you started now doing your research, who was the first person you researched?
The first person I researched was maybe it was Abraham Lincoln, to find out why he did what he did for the slaves. But I know how I started. I started with the guy, Frederick Douglass. I read his books. Then I went to the one who started the school.
Booker T. Washington? Mm-hmm.
I read his books. And then from there, I went on to, the others. W.E.B. Du Bois, and how they started the Niagara Falls movement. And from there, they merged with Mary Ovington White, who wanted to do something to help the black people out. And she started up a group, and she invited everybody to do something. And W.E.B. Du Bois, along with Mary Talbot, decided to join that group because they already had a group, and it became more widespread than just in New York. They could cover other places.
So now,
NAACP.
So as you started doing your research, now some of the things that you researched, you were alive for, such say, for example, the civil rights movement, or back in the 60s, or the way things were in the 50s, or what have you. You actually experienced that for yourself. What was it like now to research and to read about, and now to think about how to write about all these events that were going on?
Well, when I got tired of all the history, I decided to say something about me. So I started about me in around 1960. 2 or 3 after I graduated. I graduated in 61, so I started then. And I realized that I was being held back, too, because the only thing open to me was being a maid or working in the hospital as a maid there. That was like a maid job too, because we weren't. I didn't have nursing training, so whatever I did, it was still in the category of maid.
And it's interesting that you would say that, because again, I was born in the early '60s, and as a child, we would always travel from New Jersey to Virginia, or either New Jersey to North Carolina, or what have you. And we would always, first off, cook our own food to keep in the car, buy sodas and all that kind of stuff. My mom would, cook fried chicken and all kinds of cakes and all that to have in the car. And whenever we got hungry or whatever, we either pulled over to eat, or either we ate it in the car along the way. What I didn't know until I was grown was, because I thought that's what everybody did. I thought, regardless of your color, regardless of your age, that's how people travel. What I didn't realize was a lot of times we were doing that because as an African American, you couldn't stop to a restaurant that was on 95 or on the highway. That, you could, as an African American, you couldn't go in those restaurants, so you had to do your thing in the car. And then doing other research, it was the same way regardless of who you were. If you were an entertainer, you could have been Marvin Gaye or Stevie Wonder or whoever, and the same treatment was for you. You had to walk in the back door if the bus pulled up at a restaurant. So as you were doing this, how did it bring back any memories or feelings for you?
Of course. Oh yeah. If you read along, you'll see how passionate I became as I went along with my story. And I was just so very glad that we finally was able to climb up out of that habit. It was like being in a pit. That's where you are and that's where you stay. Well, somebody had to bring us up out of it.
Yeah, and it was a process, and it's still a process because we're still not there yet. I mean, in some respects, it seems like we might even be going backwards. It's just that, in terms of back in that day, it was a little bit more obvious. And if you look now in 2016, or up until this point, it's always kind of been hidden, but it seems like it's coming back out again. Because some of the commentary that I'm hearing and the acts that I'm seeing, folks are just getting bolder and bolder. And it's almost like we're going back to that time of which we feel that we've come out of.
That's why I think it's very important for my book to be widespread, be put in every school and every high school and every library, so the younger folks can know what happened in the past and not try to stay there or repeat it.
You're absolutely right. And see, in terms of our kids, they don't know our history. And that's our fault to a degree. And when I say that, I mean, as parents, it is our obligation to teach the children their history. But as the children, it's their obligation to be receptive to hearing it and learning it. What I find in too many cases is the kids don't want to hear it. And then in other cases, the parents are refusing to share it. When you look in other cultures, if you look in the Jewish culture, their history is ingrained in their children from the time they are born. And African Americans really need to do the same thing. I mean, if you look at the slogan from the Jewish tradition, they'll tell you right off the bat, never again. And what they're talking about is the Holocaust. And they're saying this will never happen in our group again. And we as African Americans, we need to be doing the same thing, because slavery was our Holocaust. And we need to be taking on that attitude of never again for us as well. But I don't seem to see that, at least not, as you say, widespread.
Well, the reason for that is we shy away from it because it was so horrible. But the Ghost of Mississippi, I won't watch that because it's just too horrible. And when I was coming up, when I was in high school, I did read Harper Lee. She died.
Yeah, the last couple of days or so. That's right. That's To Kill a Mockingbird.
I read that book in high school, and to me, it was just a story. But then, as I grew older, it became more prevalent, and I didn't really want to read it. So this book isn't something that you would not want to read. It's something that would help you, guide you along, to let you know that things will get better. It won't always be that way. And for us to keep that in mind, we have to also have a sense and recognition of God. A lot of times, see, that's what keeps the Jews going. They have a strong recognition of God.
Right.
Recognition of God also. also, because he helped us.
Absolutely. All right, if you've just joined us, my guest this morning is Ruthie Green, and we are talking about her book, A Chain of Events, A Black Woman's Perspective on Our Rise to Prominence from Slavery to the White House. I'm going to share some more information with you, but you know what to do. Get on all your social media sites, text somebody, let somebody know that the Reading Circle is on the air, and my guest is Ruthie Green. Don't you dare move, don't you dare check out or tune out. Tell somebody to tune in. Going to share the music with you for a couple of seconds, and then we're going to share what we call a public service announcement, which is a PSA. And then, as I said, while we're doing that, you let somebody know that they need to be hearing this interview.
Hey, Willie P. students! Need help with a paper? Stuck on a difficult writing assignment? Have no fear, the WPU Writing Center is here. The Writing Center can help you form a thesis, edit a paper, or just organize ideas. Feel free to stop by either of our locations. We're at Atrium 128 and Valley Road 3048. For more information, please check out our website at wpunj.edu/Writing Center. Remember, walk-ins are welcome. We look forward to seeing you at the Writing Center.
Hey, parents of children with asthma, here's another hit from the Breathe Easies.
Don't smoke in the house. Don't smoke in the house. Don't smoke around the kids in the house. Don't smoke in the car. Don't smoke in the house. Don't breathe my heart. When you're secondhand smoke in the kids, it can trigger the asthma.
Preventing asthma attacks can be as simple as making your home and car smoke-free zones. For more Breathe Easy tips to help stop asthma attacks, go to noattacks.org. Brought to you by the EPA and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley, and we come to you live each Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time on gobrave.org, and if you're in the northern New Jersey area, WP 88.7 FM. My guest this morning is Ruthie Green, and her book is A Chain of Events, A Black Woman's Perspective on Our Rise to Prominence from Slavery to the White House. Now, Ruthie, I'm reading the first chapter where it says, Bound. When our African ancestors were coming to America chained to one another in the belly of cargo ships, their sense of freedom waned, and every wave that brought those ships and its cargoes to the new land. America, a newly discovered land, meant personal freedom and a new beginning for the white man, but a lifetime of slavery had begun for the black man. It was traveling over the ocean in that condition that made the black men and women constantly ask the question, where is my God? I believe the black man had to know that his God was in charge of everything in order to endure the devastating pain of slavery. Consequently, some of them accepted their fate and others rebelled. Now, I'm reading a book on that whole, because you see, I understand what you're talking about whenever you say some things you can't watch or either can't read because it makes you too emotional. And for me, I just about watch and read all of it because it's like I see that, and that kind of acts as fuel for me to do what I do to keep going as an African American male. But I know, I don't know, have you seen the movie The Butler? Do you remember? Yeah, do you remember the opening scene? Now, so soon as I saw that opening scene, I was heated right off the bat with the butler who was narrating the movie. He watches his mother get raped and his father get shot, and every time I have young people watching that way, I said that's the way life was for us during that time period. There was no say so, because this is the other thing the kids do. Oh, if that was me, I woulda. No, you would have done nothing no different than what you saw. And because you're right, that man, if you remember that opening scene in The Butler, that man didn't do anything. Matter of fact, they were trying to get him, don't say it. All he did was ask the man a question, and he shot him. And here he was out there in the field with his son, see his wife get taken out of the field into that little shed, know what was going on, and then when the man comes back out, he goes to him to ask a question, and the man just shoots him in the head, and the butler now sees this. And of course, he's a little boy, so that shapes the rest of his life. But that's what happened to us on a daily basis.
see injustice and we feel helpless.
Absolutely right. And see, that's the part that hasn't changed, or shall I say, it seems like we're going back to that to a degree, just in a different way. And when I say that, I mean, and I have many friends who are police officers, and so I don't always jump on this police brutality thing, but at the same time, there seems to be a lot of African American folks who are getting killed by the police. Now, I don't know if that's coincidence. I don't know if we're always the ones doing something. I don't know what it is, but it just seems like, unless that's all that's reported, unless there are many other nationalities that are getting killed at the same rate, it seems like we're the ones that's getting killed the most. So that's what I say. It's almost like that notion that you just said of feeling powerless or helpless, it's kind of coming back to a certain degree.
Well, it's only coming back if we do nothing.
That's right.
If we do nothing.
That's right.
We have people now who realize that there is something we can do. We do have a black president, and we do have power. Now, there is the Republican Party, naturally, who don't want us to have power. In fact, right after Abraham Lincoln said the slaves should be free, a group called the KKK assembled itself to keep the black man in his place, so to speak, to not let him have freedom. And they circulated all over the South, and a lot of them went up north, but they just didn't have the white sheets on when they went up north. So they seem to have that mentality now, that no matter what the black man does, according to me, he should be under my feet. But God didn't make things that way. So we want to, get back to Eden. In order to get back to Eden, we have to think more of how God wants us to be and go from there. And he definitely don't want us being shot down by policemen. He definitely don't want us to have a black president that his Congress does not recognize and does not respect. That is not God's way. So we have to bring religion in it. That's a must.
Well, I tell you what, the other piece of this is, and I know you're not too far from the Augusta area, and I know Augusta is certainly kind of similar to Patterson in terms of it being an urban area. And we have, in my area where I am, and I believe just like in that Augusta area, you have not only police shooting down black folks, but you have black folks shooting black folks. Now, that's just as crazy, because we have our young African-American males shooting other African-American males and other African-American females. So now you not only do you have what we at one time, where everybody was always making the excuse of the white man, now you have the black man killing the black man, which makes absolutely no sense to me.
That's lack of education. That's really lack of education. For you to look at a person and think that, oh, well, he is my enemy. He is not your enemy. He is your brother. Get to know him. Also, what we did here in Augusta is we had an election, and now we have a black mayor, we have a black police chief, and they're bringing the crime rate down. Now, I'm not saying it's eradicated, but at least it's being brought down. Now, it's other problems that we've got. But the black on black, it is waning a bit. But there are still some people who just love to kill.
And how much of that is, because there's like a whole bunch of things that's going on at the same time. Because you have the whole thing with the Second Amendment about the gun. Everybody should have a right to own a gun. And we were having a debate with the kids in my school the other day about that. And it was split. I mean, some kids say, yes, we should be able to have a gun. Other kids say that we shouldn't. Whenever you poll the country in terms of that, it kind of shakes out the same way. Because everybody says, okay, you need to do a background check. And this is what I told the kid. I said, well, I'll tell you what. I'll pass any background check that they give. And I can tell you right off the bat, if I wanted to buy a gun, I could buy one. I'll pass any background check they have. I said, but now I have a gun in the house. Now I get mad with my wife, or we get to arguing and carrying on, or somebody. I now, out of my anger, go grab the gun and bang. Shoot her, she's gone. I said, what do you say to that? So that's when the kids say, well, that's why we say you shouldn't have one. But my point is, people, and you just said it, we are quicker to kill right now than to me that I've ever seen before. I mean, it's almost like if someone steps on your toe, the reaction is to kill them. There is no, okay, I'm hot at you, I'm going to yell at you, I'm this and that. You stepped on my toe, I'm going to kill you. Up in this area, and again, I don't know if it happens in Augusta, which I'm sure it probably does, you have kids who, if they don't get invited to a party, they'll come to the house, they'll come to where the party is, and then if whoever's there say, well, we didn't invite you, you can't come, they go back and get a gun and come back and shoot up the whole party. I'd never experienced that as a teenager. I didn't experience that coming up. But we are quicker to kill now. And back to what I was tying it back to, as African Americans, we are quick to kill each other.
We are, and it boils down to morality. We have to know that every life is important because God is the one who gave us life. So every life is important. But we're getting so far away from the Bible. We have this thing where the younger people will not go to church. After they get 18, they will not go to church. And then when they have children, they won't take them to church. And it all stems back to your knowledge of who you are and what reason you've been put on this earth. Now, I never realized that I was here. I was put here for a reason. The only thing I realized is that God is in charge of everything, and you must obey and serve Him. And for some reason, that stuck with me. But with a lot of people, that does not resonate. It seems to have no bearing. And as long as we're like the Wild West, where everybody carried a gun, and all you had to do was look at somebody or say something to someone the wrong way, and they shot you, we're going right back to that.
As you were doing your research with the various people that you researched, did you find that they had God in their lives, or did you find that God was a major presence or religion was a presence, and for them to be able to do what they did?
Certainly was for, what's her name? The lady, what's her name? That did our hair.
C.J. Walker, yes.
She at least mentioned God in there. And George Washington Carver, he said that God helped him. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Frederick Douglass knew that God was helping him. So, yeah, God was part of it.
So as you now started doing your research, did anything surprise you, or how did you go about conducting your research, and how long did it take?
It took 3 years. It took 3 years and every day at the library except for Sunday. And then we went to a budget crunch, and the library closed on Saturday. So I had to get my own internet service, and I kept that for a while. But it took a lot of research, a whole lot of research. I had notes and notes and notes. And then I had to put them together. So I just thank God that He gave me the wherewithal to be able to do that.
Well, you answered my next, actually, you didn't answer it, but my next question to you was in terms of pulling it all together. Because you said, how did you go about doing that? How did you go about pulling it all together?
Well, that's when I got the name, A Chain of Events. I figured, let me go down to the years and see what happened this year and that year, and just put them all together by year. So that's what I did.
Now, again, did anything surprise you as you were doing your research?
Did anything surprise me? Not really. Not really. Because we had bad, we had good. I mentioned all. We had bad, we had good, we had ugly. I mentioned them all. Now, what I really did not like is in the 60s when
Yes.
Martin Luther King got killed, when John Kennedy got killed. I really didn't like that. That was the hardest part for me to write because I lived through that.
Right.
And by living through that, I was like naive. I didn't realize what was really going on. That these people were being killed because they wanted justice for everyone.
That's right. And you have to tie the justice that they were seeking. At some point, that was going to cost somebody some money. And it's because that's at the under all of it. It wasn't so much the justice that folks were worrying about. It was the money that was going to be lost or caused to be lost because of that justice. In other words, let's say, for example, with John F. Kennedy, I'm a firm believer, if you're talking about connecting things, John F. Kennedy really was not for the Vietnam War, but there's a lot of money that's made in war. And if you notice with Martin Luther King Jr., as long as Martin Luther King was preaching love and peace and justice and everybody getting along, didn't too many people bothered him. But it wasn't long after he made that speech against the Vietnam War when Martin got hit. So all these things are connected to money. And you're right. You have people who are trying to do good and make life better for others. Those are the ones that were getting killed. I mean, it's not that much different from Jesus. It really isn't, because if you look at Jesus' story, if you look at those years, he was all about doing good for people, and yet they wanted to get rid of him. And if you look at these people that you just named off, they were all trying to do good to uplift everybody, and they were knocked off.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So
back to Martin Luther King. He was a man who believed what he said, and he tried his best to do what he said.
That's right.
And that's what we need now. We need people who believe what they say. People now just spout out of their mouth and don't believe a word of what they say, and they have a whole group of young folks trying to believe what they say, trying to hold them up to it, and all they're doing is just talking. That's what the rhetoric is.
Yeah, you use the exact right, correct word, rhetoric. And I tell you, Ruthie, I have watched the debates this year more than I ever have. I always kind of kept up with what was going on in the presidential races. But this year, I have been riveted. Every time there's a debate or a town hall, I make sure I make myself available to watch it. And back to what we were saying about us going backwards, if you listen to the rhetoric, because you have to read between the lines, what does it mean whenever we're going to make America great again? We're going to take this country back. Take this country back from who? Make it great again to, well, what was considered great? Is it this time that you're talking about, whenever African Americans were powerless or slaves? Or what is that? Because there's some code words in there. I don't know if folks know it or not, but there's some code words in "take our country back." Who is the our? I mean, it just, if you listen to the rhetoric, all of the candidates up there, they are, as you said, doing a lot of talk about what they're going to do, but not a one of them has said how they're going to do it.
They don't know. And we have a president now who realizes that there are many problems, and some can be fixed, and others it's just a heart issue. Just a heart issue. So I think it's time for Christians to step up. And
I agree.
Our job, then God will look on us and help save America, because America needs to be saved.
Yes, it does. And I wrote something a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about it on the show, because back on, I think, February 1st or somewhere around there was a new show that came out, and the title of the show is Lucifer. And I said, whoa. I said, now we've really, like you said, not stepped up enough to the point where it's a show dedicated to Satan, because the title is Lucifer. And so now the producers and the writers said, well, we're trying to show Lucifer in a good light. Oh, did you? I refused to watch it. But that's what they said. They said, we're trying to show Satan in a good light.
That's right. I watched it because I wanted to see what they were going to do. But they have this man who comes from I guess, well, they call it Hades. But anyway, he's here on Earth, and he's trying to keep the people from stealing, but he's the master thief. Oh, dear.
But just the thought that now you have a show dedicated to Lucifer, that blew me away. It really did. And that's where I kind of took on that saying. I put it on Twitter. I said, it's going to be real interesting to see the Christian voice about this, against this. It's going to be real interesting to see if we step up, or if folks at least acknowledge and say something like, you know what, or either just not watch it. Enough people just say, well, we'll boycott it. Because, again, at the end of the day, when all is said and done, it really does come down to dollars. And if enough people boycott the products that sponsor a show like that, it'll get pulled. And so, but that's the type things that need to happen. You have this whole thing you were talking about Obama being a black president. Some of the things that I think is going on in terms of the boldness and brazenness is because he's a black president. Because there are things that are going on that never would have happened under a white president. It wouldn't have, period. Whether it was trying to block something or whether some of the, years ago, one of the congressmen stood up and yelled out that you lied. That would have never happened. And even the ones that... Well, he did, but it was one of the congressmen. That's my point. It wasn't just one time. It's been more than one that has done it. And that never... Not to mention... the ones who are running now, at least with all the things that we've had with presidential candidates in the past, at least they look presidential. Or at least whatever was going on with John F. Kennedy in his personal life, with him running women and this, that, and that, he still looked and acted presidential. These that we have running today, I cannot imagine them dealing with other world leaders. I can't imagine Donald Trump dealing with another world leader the way he's been acting in these debates.
Hero.
But yes.
While the Rome burns, that's him. Heads in the clouds.
But a lot of people. But see again, where we are as a country, a lot of people are going with that. Everybody claim they so angry. They're so angry. So
They're angry with is the idea that it's a black president, and are blacks themselves not realizing what all the backlash is about. It's still race. And it's so unfair. It's so unfair. We're just as human as everyone else. Now, pardon me, I have to bring this up. But Bill Cosby let us know that the black man is just as human, or just as vulnerable as the white man. And he knew that because he had taken advantage of so many white women. And when he brought his show on, he let us know that we can have a nice house, we can have a nice job, and we can live peaceably in a good neighborhood without violence. He let us know that. And the only reason he knew that is because he had been taking advantage of people, but we didn't know he had been taking advantage of people. Just like God, the Bible says, whatever is done in the dark will come to the light. It's a shame that it waited that long to sort of destroy everything that he had done, but that's where it is.
Right. And you're absolutely right. I remember when the Cosby Show was on, I had a couple of people tell me, well, that's just not reality. That's not real. That couldn't possibly be. And I said, at that time, I actually knew a couple who was the reverse of the Cosby Show. Because on the Cosby Show, he was the doctor, Claire was a lawyer. And I actually knew a couple where the man was the lawyer and his wife was the doctor. And very much so. I said, oh, yes, that does happen. Don't try to tell me that's not reality. It is reality. But you don't want it to be a reality, but it is. But we're in a I'm telling you, in terms of just to look at things and to see how everything, we as a country are going further and further down. We're going lower and lower. We accept anything where just about anything goes. Where, like you said, and to bring it back to your book, we're going to mess around here and history is going to repeat itself. And it's going to be because, like you said, lack of education, lack of morals, no reverence for God. It's going to be all those things. And it's going to, as a matter of fact, if you look biblically, because I mean, this is where going back to what you were saying, God is in charge of everything in that first paragraph where they were wondering, where is my God? Sometimes you might have to say, you know what, God might be orchestrating this or allowing this to happen to get us back to where we need to be.
That's where the Christian leaders are. I think the Pope is where he needs to be.
Yeah, he stepped in this week as well. He made his commentary also. Sure. I mean, we have about 10 more minutes left. In terms of when you are now trying to get the book published, because I always go down this line of questioning for those in the listening audience who feel they have a book in them. How did you get the book to the point where you have something in your hand that says Ruthie Green, A Chain of Events? How did that happen?
Well, after 300 pages, in small print. What I did is I contacted, I went online naturally and to look for self-publishers.
Right.
Something called, I think, Red Dog Books out of Pennsylvania, but they wanted $3,000 up front, so I couldn't do that. What I could do is piecemeal, so I tried self-publishing, and they let me put up 700, and I could start it, and then more as I go along. Now, before I finished it, I wound up spending $3,000, but it was over a span of time.
So you actually went the self-publishing route, and even that, over the years, it's something with technology that we couldn't do 40, 50 years ago. You had to do the traditional, send your manuscript in to a publishing house and wait for them to take it or not take it. Matter of fact, most authors got hundreds of rejection letters before someone finally said, we'll take it. And then when they take it, they kind of take control over it. A lot of times the author or the talent would lose control over their project. But when you self-publish, you kind of keep control over your project. So what was it like for you? And this is a question I do ask every author because it's interesting to hear the response. What was it like for you when the box came to your door and you opened up that box with this book in your hand and said, Ruthie Green, A Chain of Events, A Black Woman's Perspective on Our Rise to Prominence from Slavery, and the picture of the White House? What was it like when you first put that copy in your hand?
Oh, it was just ecstasy. No agony, just ecstasy, just complete happiness, because finally it was something that I had accomplished. And it took me 3 years to accomplish that. Then I made a mistake and had to submit my copy, my corrected copy, and that took another 3 years. So this has been going on and on and on. So, finished. And then when I read about Harper Lee, how she wrote a book in the eyes of a child, and at first it wasn't accepted, but then later on it was. So I'm hoping that my acceptance will be a little faster than her acceptance was, and that all the schools, high schools especially, will have it in their library, and all the libraries nationwide will have it as part of their library books. That's my goal.
Well, the book is, again, for the listening audience, Ruthie Green. That's R-U-T-H-I-E, last name Green, G-R-E-E-N, A Chain of Events, A Black Woman's Perspective on Our Rise to Prominence from Slavery to the White House. And I tell you, I'm reading a book now. It's called Somebody Knows My Name. I believe that's the name. I'm looking at it. Yep. Someone Knows My Name. And it's that whole thing about the Africans coming over when they were taken. Somebody came to me the other day, we had this discussion of, it was back to this conversation again about blacks killing blacks. It was very similar during slavery time, that it was actually other black slaves that tricked or trapped most of the people that wound up on the boats. So in other words, the white man didn't come in and just take us, that they had other folks working for them that looked like us, that tricked us, and that's how we wound up getting captured.
And you know what the root of it was? Money.
Back to
How much for so many people? Money.
Yes, back again, the same thing. As a matter of fact, that's what the whole slave trade was about, money, because again, we were doing all that work. We were doing, and it's interesting, and this is a whole nother conversation, that we're always called the lazy people. We were the ones that built the country, but we're always the one called lazy. So we're down to the last couple of minutes of the interview. I always give those last minutes to the author in terms of promoting. You can say anything except the cost of the book or any dollar amounts. You can say anything except that. But in terms of how folks can get in touch with you, where are you going to be? Are you going to be doing any book signings? Do you have a website? How they can get a hold of the book? All that you can do. Anybody you want to shout out? All that you can do in the next couple of minutes before we close out our time together.
Right now?
That's right. Starting now.
All right. My book can be found on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. You just put in author name, Ruthie Green. It'll pop right up, Attainable Events. You get to see a little synopsis of what it is, and it's in large print. So it's for very easy reading. And right now, I'm doing book signings at Black History programs. There's a Black History program at a church here in Georgia. It's called the Peaceful Zion in Wadley, Georgia. They're having a Black History program this afternoon, and I'll be taking orders for books. Now, when I take orders, it's a little cheaper than it is with the Amazon.com, but it's all over in Amazon.com. If you want to get in touch with me, I have a Facebook